in the heart of Umu's village, where the red earth baked hard beneath the sun and the market road smelled of smoke and palm oil, there lived a man named Obinna. No one in Umuis could explain why his roasted chickens were so fat, tender, and dripping with juice that our one bite made even the stingiest farmer loosen his purse. Every market day, the wind itself seemed to carry the scent of Obina's grill, rich spices, hot wood smoke, and the sweetness that lingered on the tongue. From sunrise until the moon began to peer through the palm fronds, a thin cloud of grey smoke curled above the iron grill by the market square. The aroma drifted across the stalls of cassava sellers and melon seed grinders, weaving through the shouts of hawkers. Travelers passing through often stopped mid-journey just to taste the roasted bird everyone spoke about. Come by Obina's soft roasted chicken, tender and sweet, price for all pockets. His deep baritone voice always boomed over the noise of bargaining women and playful children. His apron, once white, was always tied neatly across his broad chest, already stained with the marks of long days by the fire. Customers loved that about him. They said his laughter was as hearty as the meal he served. When Obina laughed, the sound rumbled in his chest like the beat of a big talking drum. To outsiders, he looked like a man who had found peace, strong arms, constant customers, and coins that clinked heavy in his pouch. But that was only what the world could see. Beneath the cheerful voice and the scent of roasted spice, Obina carried a secret no one in Umude would have believed. The man who outsold them all. Not far from Obina's spot, other chicken sellers spread their grills too, though their coals often burned in vain. One woman, Nika, a wiry widow with strong arms and a sharp tongue, had been in the roasted chicken trade before Obina arrived. She had once been the queen of the market's evening rush, but the day Obina opened his stall, her sales began to fall like dry leaves in Harmattan. Her envy festered as she watched the endless line at Obina's stall. How can one man sell so cheap yet grow fat with money? She muttered one afternoon as she fanned her struggling fire. Is he cooking chicken or brewing charms? Neighbors teased her about her jealousy, but Neka's eyes burned with suspicion. One day, she promised aloud to a few women shelling egusi nearby. I will find out his secret. That man is hiding something. The curiosity of Umueze deepened the day Obina bought himself a new compound near the stream road. He had lived in a rented mud-walled room for only a few seasons. Yet now he stood before the villagers smiling as he announced, I thank the Almighty who has blessed my hands. I am now a homeowner. He poured libation with palm wine and even slaughtered a goat in celebration. People whispered behind their calabashes of palm wine that night. How does roasting chicken alone buy a man land and house so fast? Some laughed and said maybe Obina had found a money tree deep in the bush. Others lowered their voices and muttered, there is juju in this, mark my words. But taste often drowns reason. Hunger is stronger than rumor, and the smoky fragrance from Obina's grill silenced most doubts. Men who were known for holding their pennies too tightly to clink would still stop by his stall. Wives who had promised to cook at home often betrayed their pots once the scent of Obinna's roasting chicken reached their noses. The market elders concluded he was simply a blessed man. The pain that grew. Obinna was tall and muscular, his skin darkened by years beside open flame. His strong arms worked the iron rods that held the birds, turning them until their skins glistened. Nobody noticed the limp that began to creep into his wall. One market weak. It started as a dull ache in his right leg, which he wrapped with a strip of faded cloth. He blamed it on the long hours of standing near the hot grill. But as days passed, the ache sharpened. Sometimes, in the middle of shouting prices to eager buyers, he would pause to press his leg hard, pretending to adjust his wrapper. Flies gathered quicker than usual when he shifted the cloth, but he kept smiling. One hot afternoon, while a line of customers stretched from his stall toward the yam seller's corner, Obinna tried to rise from his stool to fetch another tray of roasted birds. His leg refused to lift him. He sat back heavily, his forehead breaking into sweat, though the evening breeze had cooled the market. Obinna, are you well? Asked an elderly farmer eating on a bench near the stall. I'm fine, Obinna replied quickly, forcing his lips into a grin. The fire is hot today, that is all. The man nodded, happy to return to his meal. Nobody wanted to question the hand that seasoned such delicious food. At sunset, Obinna packed the few remaining chickens and limped home. The pain throbbed as if a living drumbeat pulsed within the flesh of his leg. The secret in his room night fell over Umueze. Quiet except for the chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Inside his new compound, Obinna sat on a low wooden stool, breathing heavily as he unwrapped the thick cloth binding his right leg. The smell that rose was sour, the kind that made eyes sting. The cloth peeled away, damp and dark. Beneath it was a wound shaped like a hollowed gourd, edges hard and hot to the touch, as if the flesh was slowly cooking from within. Obinna stared at it with tired eyes. The wound had become both his treasure and his curse. As he redressed it, memories flooded back. The bustling streets of Lagos, the glitter of rich men's cars, and a certain night that had changed everything. Flashback: the city and the Dibia. Long before Umus knew his name, Obinna had been a thin, restless youth in Lagos. He worked as a laborer in the crowded spare parts market at Ladipo, where shouts of traders and the clang of metal never ceased. From dawn until nightfall, he hauled heavy gearboxes, wiped grease from oil-stained floors, and fetched bolts for mechanics. But while his hands worked, his eyes always strayed to the men of wealth who came to buy. Big men in gleaming jeeps, their flowing agbadas sweeping the ground like royal robes, their wristwatches glittering, their perfumes arriving in the shop before they spoke. Obinna often paused mid-task, rag in hand, watching them with a bitterness that tightened his throat. Why must my father die poor and leave me with nothing? He would whisper under his breath. Why should others swim in riches while I suffer here like a cart donkey? When will my day come? The seed of envy grew deep roots in his heart. No raise from his employer could soothe it. Among all the rich customers who came to the market, one stood above the rest: Chief Okafor, a powerful car dealer known across Lagos. Chief's convoy always arrived like a small festival, escorts honking, his gold chain flashing in the sun, his booming laughter drawing respectful greetings of Na Ani Odugu. Obinna watched him with hungry eyes. Months passed as he studied Chief's visits, the easy way he spent money, the confidence of his work. In Obinna's heart, a voice whispered, that is the life I deserve. I will not be a servant forever. The offer of wealth. One humid afternoon, while the market buzzed with bargaining voices and generators roared like angry spirits, Obinna's desire boiled over. As Chief Okafor concluded a purchase and turned to leave, Obinna wiped his oily hands on a rag and stepped forward. Chief, Biko, please, show me the way. I do not want to die poor, he said, his voice trembling but determined. Chief stopped, eyes narrowing as he studied the young man. This was not the first desperate plea he had heard, but something in Obinna's gaze, an unflinching mix of hope and hunger, caught his interest. You are a bold one, Chief said slowly, a small smile tugging at his lips. Many talk, few dare to ask. If your heart is truly strong, come see me tonight. We shall talk like men. Obinna felt his chest hammer with excitement. He bowed slightly. Thank you, Chief. I will come. The night visit. When darkness fell and the market lights blinked on like distant fireflies, Obinna waited nervously under a flickering street lamp at the back of Ladipo. He wore his cleanest shirt, though it was thin and patched. A sudden blare of a car horn startled him. A black jeep rolled to a stop beside him, the rear window gliding down to reveal Chief Okafor's half-lit face. Get in, Chief said simply. Obinna climbed in, heart thudding, gripping his knees as the vehicle sped into the outskirts of the city. They drove mostly in silence until they reached a narrow road that ended before a small mud house, half hidden by tall grass. Inside the dimly lit room sat a thin old man with a long white beard and eyes that gleamed like wet charcoal in the lantern light. Welcome, the old man intoned, his voice low and commanding. You seek the road to wealth. Chief Okafor stepped aside respectfully and addressed him. This is the one I told you about, Dibia Omba. Obinna swallowed hard. Yes, Dibia, I'm ready. Without further speech, Chief Okafor lifted the hem of his richly embroidered agbada and rolled up his right trouser leg. Obinna gasped. On the chief's calf was a gaping wound, dark as old charcoal, crawling with pale white worms that slipped in and out as if the flesh were their home. Obinna stepped back, horrified, but Chief only smiled grimly. This is my bank, Chief said. The more these creatures feed, the more wealth flows to me. But they must be passed into the living through food. When people eat the flesh that carries them, riches follow me like a shadow. Dibiamba's glowing eyes fixed on Obinna. If you desire wealth that never dries, you must accept a wound like this. Each night you will harvest the creatures it breeds. You will feed them to food that others eat. Fail in this duty, and the blessing will turn against you. It will eat you first. Obinna's mind screamed warnings, yet greed drowned them all. I accept, he said hoarsely. Do it for me tonight. The Dibia nodded. From a clay pot, he drew a strange curved object that smelled of charred herbs. As he chanted words Obinna could not understand, the air thickened with pungent smoke. Then, in one swift move, the Dibia sliced deep into Obinna's right leg. Hot pain shot upward like a burning spear, followed by a crawling sensation as though something alive had entered his flesh. Sweat drenched him as he trembled silently. Chief Okafor placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. Leave this city, he advised. Find a quiet village where no one knows you. Start a business where people must eat every day. Follow every instruction, and you will never lack the move to Umueze. Before dawn, Obinna left Lagos with only a small bundle of clothes and a mind heavy with both fear and ambition. His journey ended in Umueze village, a bustling trading post where strangers could settle without many questions. He rented a modest house with a large backyard near the edge of the market road. There he built a bamboo and wire pen for chickens. Every morning he was seen sweeping the coop, fetching water from the stream, mixing feed with quiet dedication. The birds grew astonishingly fast, their feathers glossy, their bodies plump, as if they had feasted on gold. Villagers praised his hard-working spirit, admiring how quickly his flock multiplied. None imagined the true secret behind their growth. When night fell and the village lanterns winked out one by one, Obinna's real labor began. Behind the locked door of his room, he untied the thick wrapper from his right leg. The wound by now had grown deep and wet, pulsing with its own heartbeat. Though the smell made his eyes water, he bore it without complaint. Holding a clean calabash beneath the hollow, he waited patiently as the night's harvest oozed and crawled into the bowl. Dibia Mba's voice echoed in his mind. Gather what the wound gives. Feed it to living food. Fail not, or it will feed on you first. When the calabash was full, Obinna poured the strange contents into the chicken feed, stirring until the grains soaked it up. He watched the birds peck greedily before washing the bowl, rewrapping his leg, and lying back on his raffia mat with a satisfied whisper, "Small pain for big money." Tomorrow the queue will be long. The booming business. By morning, the yard was always a lively scene. Dozens of fat chickens pecking noisily, their feathers gleaming in the sunlight. Neighbors often stopped to comment. "Obinna, your birds grow as if they eat cow milk," one man joked. "Good care makes strong chickens," Obinna would reply with a smile hiding his secret. When the birds reached market size, he slaughtered, spiced, and roasted them over his wide iron grill at the square. Word spread far beyond Umueze. Travelers planned their journeys to coincide with market days so they could taste the famed soft, juicy, roasted chicken. Some customers claimed they dreamt of the taste at night and woke up craving it. Money poured into Obinna's pouch faster than he could count. The business flourished like a river in rainy season. The dead comes calling. But as the seasons turned and harmattan winds swept dry dust over the village, Obinna noticed something disturbing. The pain in his right leg had begun to spread upward, tugging at his calf and creeping towards his thigh. The wound now looked darker, almost blackened at the edges. Each morning he rose with more difficulty, yet by noon he forced himself to stand by the grill because the crowd of hungry buyers never thinned. The villagers saw only his success and said, "Obinna is truly blessed. His chicken will never finish." But behind the locked doors of his compound, the bargain he had made was tightening its grip. The wound that had fed his wealth was quietly preparing to collect its final debt. The fall one, harmattan dawn, was unusually cold. Yet inside his room, Obinna lay drenched in sweat, clutching his burning leg. The pain no longer waited for night. It seared him every hour. For 4 days straight, his grill by the market stayed cold. Neighbors came knocking at his compound gate. "Obinna, are you there? Do you need medicine?" "I am fine. Only need rest," he called weakly from inside. But the smell drifting from his compound told another story. Thick and sour, it clung to the evening breeze so that women covered their noses with their head ties. Inside, Obinna's world had shrunk to the four mud walls of his room. He could hear the chickens clucking restlessly in the pen outside, waiting for their nightly feed, but he could no longer reach them. Every attempt to loosen the wrapper on his leg unleashed stench so sharp it brought tears to his eyes. The wound had spread upward, its flesh hard as burnt wood. The chickens went hungry, the market went without its favorite chicken, and the pain kept deepening. The night of horror Then came a stormy night when clouds smothered the moon and thunder groaned across the hills like an ancient drum. Obinna lay awake, eyes wide on the dark ceiling, his breath ragged. Suddenly, a tearing pain ripped through his leg and shot across his whole body. He cried out, but the roar of the wind drowned his voice. The wound burst open with a wet crack, and something began to crawl out. Fast, many, unstoppable. In the flickering lantern light, he saw white shapes pushing through the wound. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. The cloth wrapped around his leg began to lift and ripple as though alive. They spilled onto the mat with a dry, rustling sound, spreading across the floor in pale waves. Obinna tried to rise, but his limbs had turned to stone. He felt them inside him, under the skin of his belly, along his arms, even behind his eyes. He opened his mouth to scream, but more worms poured out, thick and writhing, choking his voice. The room filled with their slick, wet rustle, drowning every other sound. In the pen outside, the chickens fell silent, as if listening to the terror inside the room. The discovery. At dawn, Umu's village awoke to an eerie silence where the usual smell of roasting chicken was absent. When a few neighbors finally gathered courage to push open the gate to Obinna's compound, a heavy, sour odor rushed out to meet them. Inside the room, what they found froze every heart. The once famed grill sat cold and lifeless. The chickens scratched restlessly in their pen, untouched. The man who had fed half the village with his roasted birds lay motionless on his raffia mat, his body marred beyond words. None dared step further. They backed away, murmuring prayers, and sent for the village elders. That day, the yard where laughter and trade once thrived became a place of whispers and trembling. Children were warned never to wander near the compound again. The lesson of Obinna. In the evenings that followed, elders of Umueze gathered by the fire to tell the tale of the man who fed his greeder with a cursed wound. They always ended with heavy voices, greater than greed does not fill a man, it finishes him. What you feed for wealth will one day feed on you. Obinna, once the pride of Umueze's market, became only a dark, cautionary tale in the memory of the village.